Hi, bro. Welcome to the.
You think? Say it's been too long since we've recorded without saying it's been too long since we've recorded.
This is the Real Estate of Tomorrow podcast. This is Edgardo Valentine, and I am with my co-host
Scott DeGregorio. What is on, bro?
You know, I think a couple things have changed in real estate since the last podcast we did. People are freaking out a little bit about this lawsuit that, by the way, for the record, we talked about a couple of years ago. We did an episode on this where we explained it, and that's why we feel like we shouldn't really explain it again.
Look, everybody... and
explain it, please.
Yeah. You and I have talked about this a lot. I believe the wrong conversation is taking place.
That's right.
Okay? In our industry, in real estate industry, everybody's sitting around and pontificating on what may or may not happen come July. And look, here's what real estate agents have to understand. Us lenders, at least people that have been doing it as long as I have, we've been through this. This is the real estate version of Dodd-Frank. And I not only survived Dodd-Frank, it led to the best growth years of my career because I did what we're about to tell everybody to do. So,
wait. Seriously, give me the cliff notes on just high level cliff notes. What the hell is the lawsuit? What's happening?
So the lawsuit was an antitrust lawsuit, and NAR finally settled. And 3.5 years ago, whenever it was we did that podcast episode, we talked that would probably happen. I knew this lawsuit had legs. I'm not a lawyer. I know a lot of people said that it's right. It's done.
Doesn't matter.
So
the point is,
NAR settled with some agreements. Number one, compensation, like an automatic co-broke thing to everybody, is not a thing anymore.
What is a co-broke?
Co-broke means I pay the listing agent 6% or whatever, a certain number, and then they agree to give a percentage of that to any buyer's agent that brings a buyer.
Understood.
Okay, so that's gone. Also, commission cannot be disclosed on a website like on the MLS. And I was told, and I've heard a little bit of conflicting information on this, I was also told on syndicated websites like Zillow and things like that. Now, Zillow actually feeds off the MLS, so I don't think it would be on there anyway, but agents are going to have the listing on like their personal site or something where they could disclose that or find some other thing. But either way, it's not to be disclosed.
So basically, the buyer's commission is at risk here. What you're saying is, if I'm selling a house, normally I pay 6% to the listing agent. The listing agent says, hey, buyer's agent, if you come and bring me a buyer, I'll give you 3%, or whatever it is, whatever number that is. Now they're saying that doesn't have to happen. As a buyer, as a listing agent, as a seller, I only have to pay my realtor, and I don't have to pay the buyer's agent and realtor.
Right.
And all hell broke loose.
Yeah, and another thing that's important, and I want to talk about this today, is that an agent must have a buyer representative agreement with a person before they show them a house, like their first house, which breaks the real estate model.
Right.
Because what realtors do historically is I'll show them the first house, and during that showing is when I'll build rapport.
Exactly.
Is when I'll demonstrate my value.
A lot of times, the first time I see the agent, I see the client, right? If I'm a buyer's agent, the first time I see the client is at the open house or at whatever house.
It's a very real thing. And like I said, when Dodd-Frank happened, they massively cut our pay. They massively changed the way everything worked. And we were put in a position where we needed to really, really communicate our value.
Okay, so I'm an agent right now. I'm terrified. What are we telling our friends in the real estate industry?
Look, I think there's two plays here, okay? Number one, what can we do to profit off this today? And look, just to lay the groundwork for this episode, okay? We're going to get tactical about doing deals and making money, okay? You want to hear an attorney babble on about all the intricate nuances of the lawsuit? Cool. This is just not that episode.
This is not to understand the lawsuit.
This is to thrive with the lawsuit's existence.
What should be your reaction, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you understand the lawsuit or not, if you don't do anything about it, shit's gonna happen to you.
100%.
And that's not what we're here to. That's not what we're here to do. That's not what we're here to talk about. It's like, okay, I'm an agent. This is happening, or this may happen. How am I gonna react to this?
Right.
That's the real question.
And that's always the question. It's it's the same thing with elections or anything else. Like, just do what you can control. So, in my mind, there's stuff to do. You could find ways. We'll talk about it, to profit off it today, between today and mid-July when this thing goes into effect. And the other thing we need to do is think about what are the possible outcomes in July, and how do we prepare ourselves for each of those outcomes.
All right, so let's get tactical about this. There's two kinds of agents, right? I'm a buyer's agent, I'm a listing agent.
Sure.
Okay, today, if I'm a buyer's agent, I think the answer is very simple, right? In 2 months, basically, the seller is not going to be able to pay for the buyer's commission, and the idea is that a buyer is going to have to make the decision of either not have representation or have to pay out of their pocket for their own representation. Whether that's true or not, that's the message in the media. So if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm calling every single buyer that I have, and I'm telling them, hey, we need to get under contract before this takes place because we don't know what's going to happen with the commission. You might have to either pay for my commission or worse, have no representation, which means that the seller has all the power. Let's get on the contract right now because we can save you a ton of money that you may pay later.
Yeah, and but
easy.
That is such a layup. That is such an
Easy.
obvious layup. I know you and I have already called for our entire database of buyers, and we're encouraging our agents to do that. This is a critical first step in the process. This should be, hey, I picked up 5 closings because of the settlements.
I'm a buyer's agent. I'm calling my clients and I'm telling them I can save you money if you get on the contract right now because shit's going to get expensive, or you're going to be more open to making mistakes. Easy. Buyer's agent. Boom. Done.
Okay.
Next.
Now, when we start thinking about what might happen in July, in every scenario, a buyer's agent is going to need to demonstrate their value. Because look, you and I are used to, hey, I'm shopping around for the best deal, the best price. Buyer's agents have never had that conversation.
No, the pitch is easy. The
Yeah.
pitch is, hey, guess what? You use me, it's free. Why not use an expert advice when it doesn't cost you any money?
It is the easiest sales pitch
By
in
the way,
history.
I know they're not supposed to say free, but that's what they say.
Yeah, it's very, but that was the lawsuit too, very illegal. But that's what they've said. And now you're charging 10,000. Guy down the road's charging 8. Gal further down the road's charging 5. That loser over there is charging 500. How are you gonna? So you have 2 paths. You are the cheapest, or you provide the most value. This is our business model.
And there's no tactical value to being the second cheapest.
No. It's and that's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. And we deal with it on the mortgage side of things, where people are working for literally a couple of $100s in total commission, like
Not
craziness. So if we're going to have to deliver the greatest value, we then by default have to communicate that value. And if we need to have a buyer broker agreement signed up front, we better do that immediately. And it has always piqued my curiosity that most 99% of agents I've spoken to in my long career have a listing presentation. And just as high of a percentage do not have any sort of a buyer presentation.
All right, so let's break down what you've said so far. Let's break down what you said so far because I think it's interesting. You said 2 things that I think is important and it's worth, pausing on it and thinking about it. One, you need to figure out what value you bring to the table and have an honest conversation with yourself. Like, what are you doing that most of the other agents aren't doing? What is the real value that you're doing, that you're giving? And if you actually have that honest conversation with yourself, you'll find out it's not as much as you think. We had to come to that realization many, many times throughout the year, Scott, where you and I talk and we go, what are we doing? Like, are we actually fulfilling the promise that we're telling people that we're giving?
Of course.
And dude, that mindset, that process makes you create value. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're very valuable, if you're actually really good, no, fuck you. If you're actually really good, you also need to get really, really good at communicating that value. Because if you give a ton of value, but you don't know how to communicate it, if you're not scripting it in such a way that you can quickly tell people why they should use you, why you're valuable if you don't have a presentation like you're saying, where I can show the person, hey, it's not that I'm cool, it's not that you think I sound good. No, it's this is how I'm going to actually save you money and be valuable for you. Then you're just as good as the person that doesn't bring value to the table.
It's and here's the other thing too. The value has to be documented, right? The value has to be documented. So if, I was teaching recently about this, and I said, okay, if I asked each one of you, why should I use you versus the other 50 people in the room and the other 10,000 agents out in town, what would your answer be? But you're not allowed to say experience, service, or when shit breaks, I'll fix it. I go, let's be honest. It's a hard question to answer. And that is specifically the answer we have or the question we have to answer. And we can't use those things, and here's why. Everybody says them, and too high a percentage of the people that say them are lying.
So they don't mean anything.
Right.
It's what it is. Yeah. There's no value perceived.
It's completely intangible.
Exactly.
And I know NAR put out a list of the 93 things that a buyer agent does.
It was weak, man.
And I'm sorry.
If that's the list that you're giving your clients, it's weak. Because if you actually look at that, half of those things, a good listing agent, a good lender, a good title company, and a couple of Google search and technology replace all of that.
So, but here's the good news. I was going at it from a different way. Because you're right, they're weak. But guys, that's your competition. You have to do better than that. And I'm sorry, that shouldn't be that hard to pull off, okay? I know, Ed, we've put a mountain of work, and we're getting ready to redo it again, but we've put a mountain of work into our pre-purchase consultation presentation deck. And when we're going over that with people, their eyes are wide with how much they're learning. And that has to be the target, right? How can each of you find a tangible, documented way of proving your value? And it's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. And this is the thing. Look, we always talk about the role of the realtor in a purchase transaction. And the truth of the matter is the role of the realtor in a purchase transaction is being the good of the right realtor, the good realtor in a purchase transaction is being that coach. If the client is the quarterback of this transaction, and the client ultimately is who decides who they're going to pass the ball to, they are the ones, the realtors are the ones that are calling the plays, are saying, hey client, this is who we need to pass the ball to right now. And trust the process. Trust that they're going to make the play and they're going to get to the finish line with you. This is who we need to throw the ball for. That's the real value that the realtor brings to the table. The beauty with this is they need to know a little bit of everything, but just a little bit of everything. They need to be good enough to say, hey, this is why you need this in your life, and this in your life, and this in your life. And buying a house is a life-changing event for most people. Buying the first house is a life-changing event. It was a life-changing event for me. Buying an investment property can be a life-changing event for generations. And if we actually do it the right way and put people in place where they can help them, not for those 30 days, but for those 30 years afterwards, and make the right moves after the transaction and show me how you're going to help me. Hey, this is how I'm going to help you negotiate this house, but also this is how I'm going to help you save money on taxes after you buy the house. And by the way, when we sell your house, this is how you're not going to pay capital gains, and this is how you're going to take advantage of buying an investment property and never pay taxes on this part. Like, those are the things where you go, okay, I get it. This is why I want this guy to be the one telling me that what price to make.
Bro, I was around an agent one day, and she got a call from a buyer, and this agent is incredibly knowledgeable about waterfront property here in Southwest Florida. And bro, I was blown away. She started asking, the guy was a sailor. She asked him what kind of boats. And I don't know what it's called, that thing that sticks out of the bottom of a sailboat that stops the sailboat from tipping over. She asked how long that thing was, a beam or something, whatever it's called.
Are you making a joke? Or is
no, that's literally a thing. And bro, she talked for 45 minutes about what parts of town you want to buy a house in, because you can't buy here because this gets in the way of your boat getting out, and you can't do it here. And bro, she talked for a half hour, 45 minutes. And I was like, she hung up, and I was like, that was impressive. And that's an example, right? Like, we can't give everybody the here's the best buyer agent presentation, because it needs to be unique. You and I are hyper analytical people. We're data people. We're stats people. So our presentation includes analytics, data, and stats. So, but if I'm a boater and I'm retiring down to Southwest Florida, and boating is like the lifestyle I live, and an agent has that in their presentation deck, let me tell you, man, that value is communicated.
I'm going to push back on you for a second. I hear you. That needs to be a part of your presentation if that's what you focus on, right? Same thing. If you're a luxury agent, then you're going to be talking about other things, right? If you're somebody that lives in a freaking horse community, then you're talking about other things. I get that. However, gone are the days, two things. One, the whole like, oh, the agent with the most friends is the one that's I don't believe in that anymore, because look, when everything's free, then sure, I go look houses with whoever I like the most. When it's not free, when I'm actually paying for it, I'm gonna go see houses with whoever is the best, whoever is gonna actually save me money, not whoever I like the most. I don't care if I don't even like you, as long as you're good to me, as far as you're gonna bring me value, then I'm going with you. So agents are going to start to learn about things that they don't want to learn and that they normally don't have to learn.
Yes.
The decision to buy a house, I say it all the time, it's a financial decision. Agents need to start getting smart about the finances of buying a house. They need to start getting smart about taxation. They need to start getting smart about actual loans. They need to start getting smart about all these things more than before. And all of you great agents that are listening to me, you already do this, or at least you already know this. Now it's time to communicate it at a higher level. And then throw the boat out there. That's great. But if I get somebody that's really, really good at the boat thing, but they can't really help me with anything else, that's just, I send them a fruit basket and let's talk about boats. But they need to start doing their homework on other things as well. And it sucks, and that's okay. It's okay that it sucks. It's work. I think that at the end of the day, there's going to be, just like with mortgages, there's going to be way, way, way fewer buyer's agents, but there's going to be just as many people, if not more people, buying houses.
Yeah.
Which means that for those few that remain, they're going to keep a bigger slice of that pie.
Look, this is an opportunity. Disruption always creates opportunities. So we need to get tactical and proactive with this. So you're right. Each agent needs to find a way to figure out what their value prop is and communicate it at a very high level. And to your point, Ed, because I agree with you 100%, deal structuring is something you and I do at a very high level. And agents just don't, and they need to start.
Because it didn't have to be part of the
I understand
world,
that.
but now it does. The other thing is, I honestly believe that their relationship with the affiliates business in buying a house, it's more important now than ever.
Sure.
Because together we're stronger, right? If you as an agent refer somebody to a CPA, to a financial advisor, to the lender, to a title company, that person now becomes part of your tribe. And everybody is lifting each other up.
Yes.
And now that's more important than ever, because I understand as a lender that now it's part of my job to make sure that whatever client an agent sends me, they become even bigger fans of that agent after they talk to me.
Yes.
Why? Because now their position, their relationship with that agent is in jeopardy, where before it wasn't. Now that's important, and everybody around this agent needs to understand this. Everybody. So, how do you take advantage of that? Have an affiliate program. Have a way to recommend people. Make sure that little by little, you surround every single client that you talk to with people that are part of your tribe and not somebody else's tribe.
Yeah, and look, the other thing that I think is going to be very, very important for agents is they're going to need to start getting comfortable talking about their commission, because we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
The entire concept of the conversation is going to be challenging. And, and I personally believe that it would be surprising to me if commissions don't come down as a result of this. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I just don't see it. I don't see how commissions don't get cut. When Dodd-Frank happened, commissions got cut on our side of the business very heavily. And I know in Lee County, we went from 5,000 loan offices to 97. And me and the other 96 were freaking swamped. And that is there. So you need to develop your niche, develop your knowledge base. And like you said, you need to start taking classes. You need to start thinking outside the box. When I first got into business, I was a kid. I was like 19 years old or something. And
back in the 50s.
and I knew that my youth was an enormous obstacle. You might ask how I knew that. I had an appointment with a client one day. He walked in the office, asked for me. I told him I was me. He literally looked at me and said, "I have socks older than you," and walked out. It's a true story. Okay. So I'm like, okay, how do I combat my youth that I can't hide? And my answer was knowledge. And I went and I volunteered at a title company. I volunteered with a surveyor. I volunteered with a home inspector. And bro, I was climbing through attics with the home inspector. I was surveying the property with the surveyors. I was sitting with the insurance agents while they were shopping the insurance. I wanted to have an intelligent amount of, like an intelligent answer to questions about all of the things outside of mortgages that impacted mortgages. And bro, early on in my career, it was one of the best things I've ever done. So, how many people listening could say that they have hands-on knowledge for all of the ancillary businesses that are part of the transaction? The answer is probably very small, and the answer needs to get a lot bigger, and it needs to get there fast.
And look, I'm sorry, it's a lot easier for an agent to make a call to a title company, to a lender, to an insurance company, and just say, hey, you know what? Because you're a lunatic and you were, in the attics with people, but just say, hey, let's get on a Zoom call. Yeah. Let's record on a Zoom call. And let me ask you all these questions that I have, that I know my clients have. I'm going to ask you these questions on behalf of my clients. Record it. Send it to your clients. Say, hey, this is the things that you need to know. And I'm not the expert on this, but I know who the expert is because I work with them. Here is what they say. They have the power to really become a powerhouse in this market. But you have to work it. Now, you have a couple of options. You can ignore that this is happening and just say, well, I'll make a change when the change actually happened. That's a mistake. Or you can choose to start making the change today. The worst thing that can happen if you choose to start making the change today, even if nothing happens, which by the way, it will, but even if nothing happens, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, you're better.
Right.
Choose to be better, because being good enough is just not good enough anymore.
And here's another piece that I thought of the other day, and I haven't heard this talked about very much, but I think it's really important. An agent's online reputation strategy has to be dialed in.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be dialed in. I've talked about this on stage before. It used to be, if a past client of mine went to an office party and ran into a colleague who needed a mortgage, and oh my goodness, you got to use Scott, here's his card, he's great. It used to be that person went home and just called me. Now that person goes home, and before they call me, they Google me. And here's the rub. All right, everybody, the goal in life is to have a referral-based business. Fair. But here's the rub. If they Google you and either they don't find you or they don't like what they find, they will trust the opinions of strangers over their friends, family members, and colleagues. And that is a miss.
I'll push it even further. How about social media? You 100%. Have to be on social media, because then they find you randomly. You lead with value, hopefully. By the time they talk to you, you've given them so much value that you don't have to sell them anymore. You don't have to sell them that you're going to bring value to the table, because they've already received value from you.
Look, we do tens of millions of dollars a year in social media leads and business. It is always interesting how much our social media leads trust us the first conversation.
That's right.
Like the whole building rapport thing, which we still do. It's almost unnecessary.
Because they've already received value by the time they talk to you.
Yep.
I heard something from Alex Ramosi that was saying, like, if you're not afraid of how much you're giving away online, you're not giving away enough. Like, you have to give the secrets.
That's interesting.
He said you have to give away the secrets so you can sell the implementation. I love that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Love that.
So they must have an online reputation management strategy. Okay. By the way, we use experience.com. I don't think it's expensive, and it's a solution.
Yeah.
Social media game. Gone are the days of like, I think it might be a somewhat decent idea for us to, maybe I'll post some, no, you got to freaking post videos. That's it. Like that ship has sailed.
Build a solid tribe around you.
You got to build a solid tribe around you. You need to start developing a killer builder presentation. And I don't know personally, buyer presentation. And I don't know personally if I would feel comfortable being just a buyer's agent moving forward.
Yeah.
So if you're not a big listing agent, let's get knowledgeable in that area, because I don't think buyer's agents are going to become extinct from this, but I do agree with you. They will shrink.
One thing I want to add to that is right now, it's more important than ever to have a good strategy to reach out to your past client database. Those are people that already know you. Those are people that, unless you live in, I don't know what state in the country have had a decrease in prices, but, unless you live there, they're probably very happy with the decision that they made of buying a house. You have to have a solid strategy to reach back to them, give an annual review, and start shaking those trees, because those are people that are already your fans. They already got value from you. You need to hit them up. And look, the way the industry is, if you did the purchase with them or the listing with them 2 years ago, about 75% of their family got a real estate license. Hit them up. Hit them up now, because now at least they can go, well, it's free to use them, it's free to use you. Now they have to pay them. So Now is the time to shine and to tell them, hey, let's make a good decision again.
Yeah, it's really true. I know everybody, I know a lot of agents that say, well, my business is just referrals now, and that's fine. But when I ask them, what is your strategy for that? They literally usually just look at me and say, well, I provide really good service. And it's just, look, if you're delivering good enough service, that you're getting enough referrals, that you're happy with where your business is, imagine where your business would be if you actually had a strategy and a plan and you implemented it. Because there are lots of technologies. You and I have an entire suite of tools. You and I have a client success manager that literally calls the clients 3 times the first year after closing, and then every year thereafter, and just delivers value. So that's a critical piece of it.
That's it. Go change the game, go change your game, because the game is changing, and it's changing quick. Set up that presentation and start implementing. Start implementing now.
It's not. Look, I would think through how, if this wipes out buyer's agents completely, what would I do? If this doesn't wipe out buyer's agents, but there's less of them, what would I do? How much am I worth? Why am I worth that? How do I communicate that? I mean, we need to start working on these things today, because here's what's going to happen. The majority of agents are going to start working on this mid-July when this hits.
Yeah.
And if you start today, you are light years ahead of your competition. And trust me, from experience, I tell you, that shit will pay off big.
Yeah, big time. Well, there you have it, guys. That's what you need to do today to be successful in real estate in July.
All right, everybody, listen. Thank you so much for listening. Do me a favor. This is a hot topic. I feel this message needs to be shared. Share this podcast, please. We got to get the word out on this. We need to actually make a difference. All of us need to band together and ride the top of this wave in a very, very positive way. So share the word. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. You know this is the best podcast out there. Join us.
I'm not ready to be done. Now, stop doing the
I was doing my whole closure thing.
I know, that was beautiful too. Look, you have to stop, to your point, man. Stop doing the busy thing of just keep learning about it and not learning about how to implement when this happens. And the other thing is, stop complaining online. Stop.
Yeah,
There's
it's a bad
bitching session out there of how dare you take them. Stop and start talking about why you're important, instead of just complaining about why they're taking this away from you. Things are not, we don't deserve anything unless we actually go and take it. It's time for us to go and take what's ours.
Look, life is never fair.
So stop complaining. Let's implement. Let's band together. Let's do this. I'm excited about this, because the best agents will prevail. everything is going to be better after this. I really believe that. I think that the buyer's agents that remain are going to be the best buyer's agents out there. And I think clients are going to benefit from this. I don't think the lawsuit is great, but I think what's going to happen because of the lawsuit is going to be great. I think it's going to elevate the professionals in real estate.
Like it did in mortgages.
Like it did in
and that's
mortgages.
a win. That's a win.
Let's go.
All right, can I close this out now?
Okay.
All right, I'll see everybody in 2 weeks for the next episode.
Beautiful closing, man. Beautiful closing.